Okay, we're going to get started with our meeting. Hopefully, everyone online can hear me. I'm Andrew Bay. I'm a facilitator for 5 Points Transportation Study Working Group. Great to see all the working group members here. Great to see members of the public here as well. Tristan, I know you're on virtually. We have several people on virtually. If you could just raise your hand and then drop it down just to make sure you're hearing me, and there doesn't seem to be any issues with that. If we can. Okay, great. I see my hand raised. There we go. Modern technology. Hopefully you all are. So a couple of quick things before I turn it over to Nabila to do our safety update, our traffic safety update, and then come back to me to kind of formally kick off the meeting. But I always do like to right up front make sure expectations are very clear as far as the study goes. This is the working group meeting for the 5 Points Transportation Study Working Group. This is open to the public and all of my new friends out there visiting, as well as my new friends on by Zoom. The way these meetings are run is that these meetings are designed for the working group members. So we're going to be giving presentations, we're going to be discussing information. Working group members can raise their hand, engage, ask questions, discuss kind of whatever happens. In terms of members of the public, you're more than welcome to be here. We encourage you to be here, but we will save you till the end. We will have time at the end for public comment. If there is something that you wanted to bring to our attention, ask a question, whatever it may be, you'll have like approximately 60 seconds. We'll give each person to do that. That's kind of how we'll handle it. So I'm not being rude if you raise your hand in the public and I don't call on you, because we're not taking questions or comment during the meeting from members of the public. And that's the same with the members of the public who are joining us remotely right now. So one more reminder, this is a hybrid meeting. So if you are a member of the public, we do encourage our working group members to be here in person, because we want that dynamic of engagement, people looking at each other, talking to each other, both before the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting. But if you're a member of the public, and again, you're more than welcome to be here in person, but you also can join by Zoom. You'll hear all the same information. You'll have the exact same opportunity to provide a public comment at the end. So I just want to do that as a housekeeping measure. And now we'll turn it over to Nabila. I'm going to figure out where the page down button is, who's going to give us our safety update. And then I'll be back.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Those who were in the last meeting already know me, and those who weren't, I will introduce myself again. I'm Nabila, and I'm the new project manager for the 5 Point Transportation Study, but I go by the name Nabila, and I'm a transportation planner with Delta for the last 3 years, and I assisted, I worked with former project manager Jen Personelli on this study before taking over. So as you all know, Delta's mission statement is to provide excellence in transportation for every trip, every mode, every dollar, and for everyone. And that's why we do the job we do. And next, I would like to move to the next safety statistics, to our current safety statistics. So every week, we get an update on the safety numbers. So we ended the 2023 with 137 fatalities, which is a 16% reduction from 2022. We also saw a 30% reduction in pedestrian fatalities, 39% reduction in bicyclist fatalities, and a 32% reduction in motorcycle fatalities. However, as of February 2024, we have got 14 fatalities, 4 of which are pedestrians. So Delaware considers even one fatality on Delaware's highways or roadways is too many. So we still have a lot of work to do, and we need all of your support to move this number to the right direction. So that's all from me, and I will move to Andrew again. So thanks.
Thanks, Nabila.
Yep.
So again, I know that this is something on all of our minds, and I know coming in tonight, two members of the public are here because of a safety issue on one of the roadways where they both got into an accident, as well as some other accidents. So this is always something we want to focus on. It's always at the heart of what we're doing. I'm going to kind of get us into our meeting now. Okay. And so we're going to go over the agenda. We are going to do introductions and go around. We are going to have 3 primary updates. One is the Plantation Road project. Again, I met some people. That was why they're here. They want to hear that update. There will be the update on the capital transportation program. And by the way, here's my note. Okay, I'll come back to it. But our update on the capital transportation program, we have Shante Hastings, who's the deputy secretary, is here to provide that. We also have the presentation on Delup's artificial intelligence enhancement, integrated transportation management system. I can't even say it. I don't know how they're going to present on it, but that's why there's smart people here who will do that. And then we, as always, we finish with our phase 2 implementation status, and as I mentioned, public comment. So what we're going to do now. Oh, for those of us joining virtually, if you're a working group member, you're going to use the Zoom platform to raise your hand if you have any questions, and then unmute yourself, and then come on, and then we're going to do introductions here, and we have a lot of people, so I can't really see exactly if we have any working group members on, but I believe DJ's on remotely, and I think Scott Green is, but I'm not 100% positive. Okay, so introductions. What I'd like to do is go around the room. Glenn, I'll start with you. I know we've all been trained to be in a school, and what did we hear? Oh, really? Keep your voice down. We're going the other direction. I want your voice up. I want it loud. I want people in the back of the room to hear you. So Scott, why don't you go and tell everyone who you are and who you represent?
So Glenn Marshall, Special Operations Manager, Sussex County EMS.
I'm Pete Matson. I'm filling in for, maybe permanently, for Dave Chanuda, who has some serious health areas. I'm representing St. Jude Apostle Church over at Route 1.
Mark Schaefer, Sussex County Council, 3rd District.
Bob Fisher, retired systems engineer, volunteer for technical issues in the working group.
Lloyd Schmitz, resident on New Road and a person with a disability.
Good evening, my name is Pam Steinbach and I'm the Director of Planning for Delta.
Ellen Lorraine McCabe, I'm with the City of Lewis.
Kathy Coleman, I'm with Villages of 5 Points. I'm a resident there.
Mary Roth, I am Executive Director of Delaware Greenways and Chair of the Historic Lewis Byway.
Bill Davis on behalf of Sussex County Association of Railroad.
Russ Huxtable, Senator for the 6th District.
Scott Thomas, Southern Delaware Tourism.
I'm John Riley, Councilman from the 5th District. Todd Lawson, Sussex County Administrator.
Okay, and then DJ, if you could mind just say a quick hi, and Scott, if you're still on, I can't see you, but if any of our working group members are joining us remotely, if you could come on, please.
This is Scott. I'm happy to be on tonight. I'm a retired attorney and planner.
Thanks, Scott. And I know DJ's on. I don't know if he's going to be able to come on, but Scott definitely gets our A for Effort award tonight. He's under the weather and still joined us, so we appreciate that, Scott. Okay, so we're going to get going here, but before we do that, I just want to reiterate, kind of this meeting. I know it got delayed a month. Typically, we would meet in January. This is kind of a kickoff meeting for the year, and I just want to thank each of you for being here. This process only works because of the commitment and energy you bring. Somehow we've found a secret sauce for the 5 Points working group. We get elected officials here, we get leaders in the community here, and it really is a great balance of people. The relationships that we're able to kind of build through this, build trust and credibility through this whole process. We're able to share a lot of information that you all are able to then share with your constituents, and the process works. Does that mean everything's working transportation-wise? Of course not. Nowhere in the country or the world does that always work, but we are getting better. We're trying to see improvements. And I think that when we get to the implementation plan, we'll be able to sort of demonstrate and document that there's a lot of work being done and a lot of improvements taking place. So I want to thank you for that. This is an important process and you all play a really big part of that. on behalf of DelDOT and the county, we all. But we're gonna get into our agenda. We've got a lot to do. Speakers, I'm gonna keep you moving, all right? Because we can't get bogged down right at the beginning. But we're gonna come to our Plantation Road project update with George Pierce. George, come on up. Oh, George has come up and I asked her to wait. Thank you. Thank you, Sean, today. That's why she's the boss. So she catch all these things. I just want to quickly, I know I stay right here, Dry. I got a couple quick things to do. So in terms of what's in our notebook, this kind of follows our normal plan. We do have the agenda. We do have the presentation, the draft minutes of the October 2023 working group meeting, list of our upcoming meetings, and an updated implementation plan. So that's all in the meeting packets that you have in front of you. All that information is online. So everything we're presenting tonight is on there, as well as historical information about prior meetings and all the information that we've discussed over time. So if you ever needed something at night, you were bored, and that's a good place to go to catch up on everything 5 points. So I do want to just, before I do have George present, get a confirmation on the minutes from October. So I would entertain a motion right now for approval of those minutes. Senator Huxtable, thank you. Is there a second?
Yeah, second.
Thank you, Mary. Any comments or questions or anything that you wanted to add to the minutes? Anyone?
There's a couple nits in that spelling things, but can we just email those to video?
Absolutely. Yep. If there's any kind of information like that, we'd love to get that, make sure that's accurate. So subject to kind of edits and some wordsmithing that Mary may have, is there anything of substance that anyone would like to share or bring up for us to look at? Okay.
Yeah.
Not seeing any hands. We are going to have a motion to approve. So is there all in favor of approving the October 2023 meeting minutes? Please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay. Those are approved. And now, for a second time, I'm going to bring George up to present on Plantation Road. We're going to do that.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm George Pierce, construction engineer with DelDOT. Brian Barons is also here with me. He's in our design group. So Brian works designing these things, and then I help implement them once we get them out into construction. No, I've met a couple of times with the group to talk about Plantation Road, so I figured I'd give an update on where we're at. For anyone not familiar, it's a project of 5 points where we're adding a roundabout off to the west of Plantation Road to help with getting traffic through what's unfortunately known as Malfunction Junction. Project's been underway for about a year now, and we are right in the middle of our very impacted detours that have been going on since around Thanksgiving. To start, this is kind of going back in time. We closed Plantation Road, Beaver Dam Road, and the Route 9 connector down back in November. There's a small subphase we had to do here where we were keeping that Lowe's entrance open. As I'm sure everyone knows, Lowe's has 2 new entrances that they built off of Shady Road. So we were trying to make sure everybody could get in there for the Christmas holidays. Once they finished that, we switched, moved the road closure down. As far as the traveling public through, everything pretty much remained the same. I think, oh, sorry, the detour was next. All right, so the next big thing that's gonna happen, we're almost into March. As soon as we can get the hot mix plants open back up and weather starts to break, which seems like it's happening now, we're gonna get this thing paved and reopen the Plantation Road to Beaver Dam movement for everyone. So we will not have to go around that. Now with that, this is what's going to be open out there. As you can see, we'll have Plantation Road, you'll be able to go use the roundabout, continue on the Beaver Dam, but we're still going to keep the connector to Route 9 closed. So there will be no way to get from Route 9 to Plantation Road outside of the detours we have in place now. That's a little bit more complicated getting that connection finished. So we're going to be working on that and then have that open by May, probably middle of the month. And then once that's complete, for all intents and purposes, we'll be operational in the final configuration. Now, we still have to follow up after that and complete work on Plantation Road itself.
On the first grant, and
Yeah.
I have several people ask me for the connector road from Route 1 to the roundabout, there is no light shown on the first graph, correct? Or maybe my eyes failed.
There's a signal there, yeah.
There is, could you please on this graphic, since it's an overview graphic for the completion, I'd recommend, because people are confused, that there's a light there now, right?
Yeah, and there will be a light when we're, yep.
Since this is your master thing on the website, I would suggest that you correct this graphic and show a light there. Because I'm getting a lot of questions about that.
Understandable, yeah, I think we have a final overview there, but I see everyone's pulling up the detour.
There are 12 charts, one of them, chart 10 shows the light.
Yep,
That in that phase, so I know it, but the other charts don't show the light.
okay, we'll get that updated.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, so, yeah, the plan is in May, we'll get everything open and operational. And then we'll have about another 9 months or so of work to continue on Plantation Road. It's kind of slow going, but we're gonna maintain all the traffic capacity there and be minimally impacted unless necessary. These are the detours we have in place. I don't think I really need to go over the routes. Everyone's been taking them for long enough now. I will add that when we originally, before we put the detours in place, there were some current concerns with some of the intersections, maybe on the detour route or alternative roads people are using. Our traffic section did add a four-way stop at Beaver Dam Road and Dairy Farm Road, and also Robinsonville and Cedar Grove Road. As it stands right now, they're in the data collection phase of those to see if they're gonna remain in place once we pull the detours. Because we're sending a lot of traffic there, we're helping to mitigate it, and we'll see moving forward what we do with that long term. Other than that, that's pretty much all I have for the project, and I will hand it over to Sean.
No, not yet,
All right.
not yet.
But
So a couple things. One, I want to just, Bob, that was Bob Fisher, just for our minutes who asked that question. I just want to make sure that's on. I also want to let everyone know that Ryan Bond is attending on behalf of Representative Parker Shelby. So Ryan, thank you for that. And are there any questions or comments or other clarifications that any of the working group members would like on that update? Sir, I know you came in late. The questions and discussion are just for the working group members. Okay, at the end, there will be a time for public comment, but not now. So sorry about that. But any working group members have any questions? Okay.
Yeah, this is Mike Tyler. I'm representing the Bicycle Council of Delaware. And I just want to know about bicycle access.
And Mike is one of our working group members. And thanks, Mike, for joining us. So, Mike, is there a specific area that you're looking for, or just in general, as far as the entire project, just kind of better understanding the access for bicycles?
Will bicycles be able to use it when that is open, when your temporary is open?
so the bike detour will stay in place because we're directing the bikes onto the mixed use paths, correct? Yeah, so that's towards the end of the project. So no, to answer your question, the bike detour right now is taking people to Jimtown Road, I believe. It's slightly different than our vehicle detour, and that'll have to remain in place because in order to get the bike traffic through the roundabout, we were using essentially the existing alignment of Plantation Road to Beaver Dam. That's being converted to a mixed use path.
Okay, we'll see it as it develops.
Anyone else before we move on? Yep, Mary.
Just to ask clarification, so your mixed use paths will open closer to the end of the project, which is that 9 months after you open in May?
Yes.
And again, I'm sorry, that was Mary Roth, and working group members, just for our minutes when we take them, if you could just state your name before you ask a question or make a comment. Thank you. Okay, all right, well, we're gonna move on now. You know, if you guys have questions or something pops up later, are you guys sticking around?
Yeah, we'll be here for questions at the end. I was gonna add it. There's a lot of people, so if you don't get your question or want to talk about something more specific to your impact, feel free to find me or Brian afterwards.
The school needs us out of here by 7 tomorrow morning. There is a limit.
Or we
All right,
can
I'm eating it, so.
All right, Shantae?
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've been here with you, so I'm going to do a very high level update
on the remaining projects in construction, in design, and plan projects. Super high level, we can get into more detailed questions at the end of the presentation or after the meeting, but I want to try and keep us on schedule, and I'll try not to talk too fast. All right, so the first thing to point out to you is that we do have our project portal, so del.gov/projects. Any project that we have in planning, design, construction, you can go on, you can either look at the map and zoom in an area and click on a project. You can search by road name, by a single word. So when I look up the Old Orchard realignment, I type in Orchard and it pops up, and then you click right on it, takes you to the project page, gives you a lot of the high level information I'm going to go through with you, and has schematics for all of the projects. So we're going to roll through construction projects first. So as many of you know, we did a small intersection improvement project at Route 1 and Old Landing Road, lengthening the left turn lane in the southbound direction. We thankfully got that open right before the holidays last year. So that is substantially complete. And that's a project that it was just easy in terms of being able to use existing kind of roadway, reconfigure it, and make a huge, I think, operational improvement as well as safety. See it right there in front of the shopping center there. Next is Route 24, Love Creek to Mulberry Knoll. So that's the second phase of the widening. So we completed the first phase from Route 1 to Mulberry Knoll. We've established the temporary signal at 24 in Mulberry Knoll. That's functioning really well. Construction is underway for the rest of the widening project, and it will be complete later this year. And you can see these are just the schematics. So we're basically, we'll have 2 lanes in each direction through the schools. And then from the schools to Love Creek Road, we'll have a center left turn lane. So still single lane in each direction, center left turn lane, sidewalk, shoulders.
Shante, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Mark Schaefer, you said the light currently in Mulberry Knoll and 24 is temporary?
No, not temporary. We put it in
Okay.
for construction purposes.
So it'll stay there after the
facilitate
project's
the spec,
complete?
yes.
Okay.
Yep. All right, moving to our long list of design and planning projects. So the Georgetown to Lewis Trail, this is really the last segment to get done. It's a long segment to be able to complete the 16-mile bike trail from Lewis all the way to Georgetown. We did get a $20 million raise grant to be able to complete the construction. So that project is wrapping up design. We plan to begin construction hopefully later this year or early 2025 with the completion of 2026. So we're really excited about this project. This is a really viable way to get from Georgetown to Lewis and not add to the traffic craziness that we experience all the time. The new road bridge, so Bridge 3-714, we have the design underway for that. We plan to begin the advanced utility work in the fall of 25, and then construction for the actual bridge project itself would happen the following year. We have a lot of utilities to move. This project will both raise the bridge as well as the approach roadways to deal with the daily flooding that we're experiencing on that road. And the reason for the delay in construction start was twofold. We have wetland mitigation that we have to do for the project, and so we actually had to go out and find land to be able to do that mitigation. A lot of times we're able to mitigate right on site, and we weren't able to do that for this project. So we actually had to purchase property. We have to get the mitigation site actually up and functioning. So that takes a little bit of more time, and we're coordinating this project with Old Orchard Road. So we didn't want those two to be under construction at the same time. So we're pushing forward with Old Orchard, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then this project will follow on afterwards. And you can see the rendering for it. So raising it to get it out of the flood stage and raising the approaches and stuff. We have a couple of projects at the Hudson and Steamboat Landing intersection, Eagle Crest and Oyster Rocks intersections of the south of 16. And so we're looking to channelize left turn movement both on Route 1 as well as coming off of the side streets. But we have to coordinate that with the 1 and 16 project, and then also with a lot of the events that are now happening at Hudson Fields. So we're still analyzing what we need to do there. And so this project is a TBD in terms of beginning construction. once we figure out the best path forward in terms of how to channelize the lefts. As it stands today, we were looking to, at the Oyster Rocks, Eagle Crest intersection, allow left out movements there. But if we're making a left from Route 1 onto either of those side streets, you'd actually go down and make a U-turn. And then Hudson Road was the opposite. You'd be able to make a left from Route 1, but any left out movements would have to do a right turn, U-turn, and or use the Eagle Crest. So more to come on those once we have a better path forward. We'll do a couple of Cape Neck, Hudson, and Sweetbriar Road. So this is a project that we coordinated with the county with what we're calling the fast track funding, where the county advanced funding for us to be able to begin the design right of way construction, and then we will pay them back when it was scheduled to go to design in our CTP, which is much later. And so we are planning a 5-legged roundabout at that intersection. In the interim, we did do the always stop, and as somebody who goes to the intersection twice a day, it has made a huge impact in terms of safety. You're no longer holding your breath, wondering if somebody's gonna kind of come from the side and you're not going to see them. But the roundabout is the ultimate solution there. We are acquiring right of way currently, and utility work will begin in 2025 on that project.
Shante, just quickly, I am seeing a couple notes that those of us joining online, that there are a little bit of sound issues. Hopefully it'll improve, but I do want you to know we're looking into that. But keep going, Shante.
So this is the schematic for Cape Neck, Hudson, and Sweetbriar. Having the shared use paths and being able to accommodate all of the different movements at those two closely spaced intersections. Next is the one Cape Neck grade separated intersection project. So that project proposes a bridge basically to carry Cape Neck from one side of Route 1 to the other, along with service roads to be able to facilitate access for the properties along Route 1, both to the east and west sides. We are acquiring right of way currently, and the design is progressing really well. We anticipate beginning construction in the spring of 2026. And this is the concept for that project. You can see the bridge across Route 1, connecting both sides of the Cape Neck and the service roads up and down, also connecting some of the roads that intersect with Route 1 further to the south. Route 1 in Lyons Conway, also a grade separated intersection project. This one, we actually get to use the bridge, the Nassau Bridge that exists today. We have to build a new bridge, but we'll be building service roads on either side of Route 1 and making a new connection under the bridge to get over to New Road. That project, design and right of way acquisition are just about wrapping up, and we hope to begin construction later this year. This is the southern section of the project. So you can see the two roundabouts that connect under the Nassau Bridge. And then further to the north, connecting all the way up to talk a little bit before about the realignment of the Orchard Road at Westford's Corner. That project is going really well. Design is nearly complete. We've got right-of-way acquisition just about wrapped up. We have some advanced utility work that is underway. It will take about a year to complete. So this, where it says through fall 2024, is actually through next year. So we're going to have a little bit of overlap with the roadway construction and utilities, because we anticipate beginning road construction sometime next spring or summer. And a lot of the preliminary work for this project will be what we call off alignment. So impactful the tower. We can see the concept here. So connecting Old Orchard over to Savannah Road at a signalized intersection. And then having a roundabout a little bit to the south of there to facilitate some other things.
Yes, Bob?
Bob Fisher again on the graphics. It appears like a number of these graphics are either missing traffic lights in them, or there is some sort of code that I don't know, that indicates that there's a light there without the little red, red, yellow, green.
Yeah, we can add that, Bob. So this is already a signal, so that's why we don't have it. We typically would put that if it was a new signal, but I hear your point, and to make it clearer, we will go back through and update these.
So are these graphics that you're presenting in general only the changes that are being made? and not the way it's going to look when the whole project is done. That's new to me too. I thought that was the way it would look. So that's a broader question. You all, whatever you decide, just.
Yep, yeah, no, we can add the graphic for a signal there. We typically haven't done that. If you look historically, if there was a signal there, we didn't put a new signal graphic, but I get your point, and it may be confusing at first, especially when we're doing some kind of new connections.
People may think that you're taking the traffic light out if you don't show it at the final project. That would be my only concern.
Got it, thank you. Yes, Kathy?
Kathy Coleman, just a clarification about the possible overlap. You're saying there might be some overlap with the new road Canary Creek.
There will not be over.
There will not
That was our goal, was to not have these two projects over.
Thank you.
In terms of traffic impact. So we may still be finishing up construction on this project, but as long as all the lanes are open and everything, we can start the road. Right, but just want to clarify.
Thank you.
Route 9 and Kings Highway, so that project is under design. We did have a public workshop last week on that project. We are still kind of finalizing the overall design, so had the workshop, we'll be taking comments in through, I think, March 22nd, I believe is the date. We'll be analyzing all of those comments, figuring out the path forward on the entire project. And once we do that, we'll make sure to announce it to folks and then move forward with the full-on design. And once we know exactly what we're doing, we'll have a better estimate when we'll begin construction and through construction. You can see this is the proposal that was shown at the workshop last week. Airport Road Extension, so that is creating a new connection between Old Landing Road and Route 24. That project is in the very early stages of design. So again, we've had one workshop on it, presented the various alternatives. We're still kind of analyzing and evaluating everything. We'll be putting out the final concept that we'll be moving forward into design. And then again, once we have that, we can give a better schedule for construction start and completion.
Shaka, you're doing a lot. Part of this is just to give you a break and keep your voice up just for the hour. I know. I was from someone else. Doing great.
Okay, and then the last two projects, I'm not going to go into a ton of detail on because they are very early on. So for this new road, Nassau Road to Old Orchard, that project will actually begin design next fiscal year. So that starts in July of 2025, or sorry, yeah, July of 2024, sorry. And so we will start the public involvement process, developing alternatives at that point and have workshops. US 9 widening, that project is very early on in the design process. So it is funded for design. And that project looks to widen Route 9 from Old Vine Road to SR1, so 2 lanes in each direction. And so we're currently evaluating how you do the widening, what the impacts are, costs, all of those things. We'll be going out to a public workshop for that as well. Beaver Dam Road widening from Route 1 to Dairy Farm. That project would widen Beaver Dam Road 2 lanes in each direction. So it's basically kind of the follow-on to the Plantation Road project that is underway now. Design is funded to begin in fiscal year 26. So that would be July of 2025. And again, same process in terms of public involvement, coming up with alternatives, et cetera. Mulberry Road Extension from Cedar Grove Road to US 9. That project contemplates a new road that would connect from Cedar Grove over to Route 9. That is actually a recommendation from the 5 Points Working Group. And it's currently funded to begin design in fiscal year 2028. So that would be July of 2027 that it would start. Coastal Lane from Linden Lane to Route 1. That's looking to include shoulder, sidewalk, and bike lanes on Coastal Lane for that stretch. And that project is scheduled to begin design in fiscal year 2028. And then the last project I think on the list is Shady Road. Again, looking at turn lanes, sidewalk, and shoulders for safer movement of traffic and walkers and cyclists. That is another project coming out of the 5 Point study, as well as the Henlopen TID, and also slated to begin design in fiscal year 2023.
Before we get to questions, I feel like I'm gonna have a dream tonight that Shantae is on Jeopardy in every category was still that improvements in Sussex County. Just gonna run the board. Any questions or comments from anyone? Yes, Mary Roth.
Thanks. Mary Roth. Shantae, this is a detailed question, so feel free to say, answer me another day. On Orchard line, there was a lot of utility work when Delmarva and the city did their pieces. There's where the world's largest utility poles arrived. There's still a lot of the old utility poles that are out there still have wires and all sorts of other things connected to them in and around the probably Savannah, West Coast. Okay. Little bit of Old Orchard section. Brian,
I'm going to friend.
Okay.
He knew already.
Okay. I'm trying to get a sense of how many of those poles are going to go away when the project is underway.
Yeah, so good question. The reason mostly is that the transmission poles, the real large ones, they can really only go in like twice a year, 2 times during the year, spring or fall. When the weather's pleasant, we don't want to cut people's heat or their air conditioning. So a lot of coordination goes into the time of year that should go. And then we have the right of air not factors into that as well. So timing worked out for that last fall for all of that to go in. The next phase of that, we have to do some clearing of the rest of the trees, including the large one there at the intersection. That is going to go away soon. And then the rest of the utility companies that are also on those poles, they have to do onto the new poles. So yes, the old ones will go away. The rest of the utility phase is about to begin. And it's going to last about a year plus. So all of it will be cleaned up over the next year, but that's why you saw it and that's why you stopped. And it's about to start.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good question. And that's a great point. Oftentimes we get asked, why does everything take so long? And we, working with the utilities, trying to find windows where they can do our work and then not impact their customers is part of that. Having to maintain traffic when we're doing all the construction. So George talked about, plantation. We're going to, when we get the roundabout open, we still have 9 months of work to do. Probably not 9 months worth of work, but we have to maintain traffic. And so it's a slower kind of construction process. And so I know it takes a long time. I wish we could snap our fingers and do these things really quickly. Right-of-way acquisition takes a while. We fairly negotiate with every single property owner that's along the project. And that takes time. That takes lots of meetings per parcel to work on. And so we are working as fast as we can, and when we can slide things forward, like Old Orchard, being able to do that before the new road bridge, just from a timing standpoint, that's what we do. But we've got a lot of work to do in Sussex County. You know it. We're at $1.3 billion over the next 6 years. So we're really excited to be doing that work, but it does take us a little while to get it done. To make sure that we are treating folks fairly, that we're taking into consideration those who are traveling the roads and building safely from a work perspective.
It's really helpful though, because when you hear the term utility relocation, you're like, oh, we've been we've been my electric line. But to have a sense of when the new poles go in and that each whatever utility is attached to one needs to move it to the other, you get a much better sense of kind of the puzzle that it takes to accomplish. So thank you.
So I don't see any other hand. Bob, go ahead.
It's a comment, not a question.
Sure.
As an engineer retired, it's such a pleasure to have a traffic engineering graduate of the University of Delaware with tremendous experience as the Deputy Secretary of Transportation of Delaware. And perhaps that's why she's able to ace all those Jeopardy questions. She actually understands traffic engineering.
I wasn't going to say it, but Bob gave me the perfect lead in to say not only the Deputy Secretary, but just named the Engineer of the Year in the state of Delaware. But I do want to, I'm going to bring Gene Donaldson up to go into our next presentation. But when the 5 points transportation study working group started way back in 2017, obviously that led to 78 recommendations, a lot of discussion, a lot of work. But at the heart of it was kind of everyone coming together to say, you know, we need more investment, transportation investment in Sussex County, specifically in the 5 Points area. And when you go through that list of what Shante just went through, and here $1.5 billion of projects. You know, you all can be very proud of yourselves for bringing that attention and coming together, and the partnership between the county and the state to really deliver on that. Again, nothing's perfect, but there's investment, there's progress, things are happening, and so you know, this group and everyone who's ever served on the work you really should be proud of themselves. So with that, and Shante, are you sticking around or do you have to go?
I will.
Okay. I'm going to bring up Gene Donaldson now. Gene is right behind me. Gene is going to be, there you go. But Gene's going to be presenting on artificial intelligence enhanced transportation management systems, or AI ITMS. So Gene?
Good evening. I'm, so you don't throw things, I'm a Sussex County resident. I live near Fenwick Island. And for 27 years, I've been driving from Fenwick to Smyrna, Delaware to work. So one of the major roads I go every day is out here, or 113 to, and the other thing is you curse traffic signal in Delaware.
Gene, I'm getting a note that you've got to speak up. I know that's not your natural voice, but that's that owl right there. That's who you're talking to, but you're also talking
to the owl.
But you're also talking to the back of the room as well, okay?
All right, so let me get started here with the display. But again, if you curse the traffic signal in Delaware, you now have a face to go with it. And we're easy to get a hold of. So I'm going to talk, we've been building since I've been here, a computerized signal system. Now, every traffic signal in the state, including 200 in the city of Wilmington, is connected to that system. So that's over 1,200 traffic signals that are monitored real time. Do you ever look at the traffic cameras that are out there? They all fall under our program. And that's one of our most popular things. And there's more coming. I'm going to talk about the advanced things we're working on. And if I get the right arrow, bingo. All right, we call the system the integrated transportation management system. But as you've heard, and all the news and everything else, that there's artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so forth. So we are building a system that includes artificial intelligence, machine learning, and other things that I will go over here. The we call it AI ITMS now, of course. Big part of all the capabilities of the new system is we use all the data. If you ever drive through a traffic signal on the far side of the signal, you'll see a loop, cut in the roadway. We have sensors all over the state that are giving us real-time information, and we store all that. And the system, the new system, is going to do short-term and longer-term traffic flow prediction. So it looks at all the data, it looks at how things are responding, and this new system will adjust accordingly. It will also do prediction. So the signals will be timed before the problem gets here. The incident management, the 24-hour PMC operations falls under me also. And so 24 hours a day, we are monitoring and assisting, managing whatever impacts the transportation system. I talked about machine vision. And then as this system goes, you're going to see more optimization on traffic, which everybody wants. And then the thing we're starting to work on already, and you've seen it on the news and so forth, is connected automobiles. And eventually fully autonomous vehicles. But, right now, my state car has some technology on it that is advising me or the system of the status of traffic signals that I drive through. The other thing is flood prediction. We've installed sensors, worked with USGS, and all the flood sensors. We now predict when it's going to flood. The system will also monitor that. So as it shows here, a variety of systems monitoring that I've already talked about is what we're working on. This new program started with a $10 million grant. We were 50-50 on it, and we competed for that grant. And since that time, and that is the foundation of building the new system. All right, you can see our Chris Myers, who runs the daily operation in the center and so forth. And all of those functions that you see right there are managed through the system and at the TMC. So from weather to whatever impacts the transportation system, we have technology to monitor. And then we work with the rest of the department on how to respond to any problem. I won't go through a lot of the details. I just talked about the traffic monitoring, the incident detection capability, the prediction capabilities, third-party data. We get data from WeJo, from other companies that are supplying data, and that's integrated into the system also. And then center-to-center operation. Again, timing plan management and reporting, automated traffic signal performance measures where we monitor, the system will monitor how things are operating. And then where we're really heading is the signal, again, the system will adjust the traffic signal system. When we first started on this project, the company we're working with said, well, we'll sort of advise the technicians. I said, I wanted to take care of the problem. Advise the technicians, but take care of the problem. And so that's being built into the system. I want to go through this quickly so we can answer questions. And vehicle classification. So there is technology that we're using, whether it's a truck, a car, a bicycle, or whatever. And we're testing that technology now. All right. There's a new dashboard for the technicians and engineers at TMC to use. And there's a whole lot of information of what's going on the statewide system. Without going into all the traffic data, then we see all the sensors, we see all the data coming in, we understand travel time and everything else. I've talked about traffic flow prediction, and that's a key part of the new system. Traffic incident detection. We've already found that the system is detecting an issue before we get a message from Waze. Well, that's pretty good. And so it has a lot of potential. And it's identifying a problem real quick. And that's what's really going to help us do. And the accuracy, if you can see it here, for something major, it picks it up 100% of the time. And even then, if it's something minor, it's 88% of the time. So it's pretty smart. The other thing we do is when there's a problem, people like me determine how we're gonna reroute traffic, how we're gonna time all the signals, all of those things. We're building that into the system, where it will know all the routes. It will make a determination how to reroute traffic. And then managing the intersection, there's a variety of technology. I don't want to go into all of that, but you're going to see more and more advanced technology as we move the system further. Again, it's going to be adaptive and predictive. And so it has all the sensors, it's figuring out the proper cycle lengths and so on. That's really going to help advance. And then it's also looking at how it performs. If things get better, if things get worse, don't do that again, because it got worse. That's being built into the system. And on the engineering side, we look at high resolution data. That's data coming through an intersection. It interacts with the existing systems and looks at all the data again and makes multiple adjustments. Those little lines going diagonally, that's progression. When you go down to Route 1, why is it not changing the way it should? We should, like in the summertime, traffic coming to the beach, we're going to lean towards traffic coming to the beach. So the signals are adjusted manually to have that happen. So if you're going the opposite way, you may stop at more signals. But the system, we're building the smarts into it that it determines from all that data what's the best way to progress traffic. The other thing we're testing, like with my vehicle, we're going to equip more and more vehicles. As I drive through here every day, or I'm over on 113, that's all being tracked. And it's also matching it to how the signals are working. So as we put more vehicles out with the technology, that will help the system and us better time the traffic signal. SPAT, you're going to hear the thing that should come into your automobile is the connected automobile. So SPAT is signal phasing and timing. We want to make the system safer. And the things we're working on is if the system sense you're going to run the red, we're going to hold the rail is our plan. We're going to try to reduce those types of accidents with the technology. And so there's a variety of things that this technology will allow us to do that will make the system safer. Machine vision. Big Brother is watching. And so we're putting in sensor technology. Again, that is watching intersections. And that data is going to help us time the signals better. But we'll understand, we do turning movement counts to figure out how to time the signals. This will make it so it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That we'll know the turn movement counts. We'll also know the type of vehicles, whether it's trucks, cars, and so on. And again, that's tons of more data that we can use for planning purposes. And machine vision, we're already tracking vehicles through intersections. We know we can do that. And that helps us improve the safety, the timing of the intersection, the timing of the corridor, and for many other reasons. And then connected vehicle data, I went over that. The more vehicles that are connected to the system, the better the data, and the better the system can operate. We also competed for another grant and was awarded a grant. And that's the Attain grant. where I've mentioned flooding, we're going to make the system smarter. To monitor the flooding. And monitoring how we move traffic related to an evacuation and those kinds of things. The system will be more automated. All of this information, we work closely in Delaware with police and fire and so on. And we work as a pretty cohesive team. The more data we have helps everybody to consider the process. And then the smart grant, this is where using cloud technologies, where it'll make it so we can transmit to multiple vehicles, understand what multiple vehicles are doing. And we have a project we're trying to get going with Verizon Mobile. They want to work with us. And so that in where we're at now in 58 milliseconds, we can get data from a vehicle to the TMC. And it has to be that kind of speed for us to do the things I'm talking about. So people, we hold a signal red, we provide information to drivers. So this is a big safety feature and a way that we can reach thousands of vehicles with this technology. And I try to simplify this. And again, I've been doing this 27 years here. And I did it 27 years with Montgomery County, Maryland. So half a century I've been playing with signals. But it's getting more advanced, but the basics are, you do three things. Control, running the traffic signals, those kinds of things. Monitoring, just like I talked about, you have to monitor. And then we have to provide information. If you've used the Delbot app, or you've used any of our tools, we have a lot of things that you can give you real-time information. So that app, eventually here shortly, you'll start to see more signal time stuff. So let's see there. All right, thank you. So now ask me questions.
Yeah, Bob, I'm gonna go to Lloyd first, and then come to Bob. This is Christmas Day for Bob Fisher, all right, this presentation.
It's engineering.
Lloyd, go ahead.
Hi, Lloyd Smith. As you put in the new traffic signals, are you putting in the wiring to accommodate the accessible pedestrian signals with push buttons and all?
Yes.
So they'll be there if somebody wants.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Bob?
These will be easy to answer. First, are you working, is anybody working with the automobile manufacturers to have them come up with a kind of a semi-universal way that every automobile has a way to interact with the traffic, these new systems? Is there some effort across the country to do that?
Yes.
Great.
There's multiple meetings, there's multiple tests going on.
Right.
But I think, and I'll say this, that the automobile industry has to understand what we are going to do.
Right.
And so they can't really put something in the vehicle. They test it and all, but for them to make that major investment of putting this type of technology in each vehicle, we have to be ready and exchanging information.
AM stereo was the same way with the FCC. There were 10 proposals, no, not one was adopted by the FCC, so we don't have AM stereo today, otherwise we would. The second question was where you have monitoring, control, and information. We hear a lot of problems about enforcement. Obviously, you could put a fourth bullet in there that says enforcement because you're going to know who's speeding within 58 milliseconds. If it's going to be in there if you want to look for it. Is anybody talking about real-time enforcement, which would, you wouldn't have to put the cop out there, you know that somebody was speeding. Yeah, and this is a legal question as well as a technical one.
Sure. So to talk a little bit about automated speed enforcement. So during last legislative session, we did get approval to be able to use it in work zones. So DelDOT can use it in work zones. And then in Newcastle County and in municipalities within residential zones, they're also allowed to use it. So we have regulations that are out for review and hopefully will get approved in April. And we can start our process in terms of work zones. And that will also allow the Newcastle County Police as well as local law enforcement and municipalities to be able to start using it. We don't have the full authority to use it on all roads at all points in time. So we did a pilot on I-95 when we did our work zone up there. We had great success. We reduced travel speeds by 11 or 12%, reduced crashes by almost half. And so it worked. And so we know it works. And that's why we were able to get the authority to use it in our work zones. It doesn't pay for itself. And so when we look to do the legislation to get it throughout the state, there were some budgetary issues with being able to do it everywhere. And so I think we will deploy what we can. We'll see the results. And I would guess that over time it would potentially expand, but again, it does not pay for itself. It did not pay for itself on I-95 in terms of the amount of violations that were received and paid, but it paid for itself in terms of the safety benefits. And so that's where things stand right now with automated speed.
Thank you. Any other questions from any other working group members? We'll go down, Scott.
Yeah, Scott Thomas, great presentation, Jim. This is exciting. My question has to do with traffic counts and some of the enhancements you spoke of to make it more and more real time. I know tourism, we use an algorithm or algorithms based upon that traffic count to determine visitation on a given day, weekend, or segment of the day. Can I follow up, or is there ways to do this while you're working on this where you not only get the overall traffic counts, but the visitation count as well, since we already are working?
Well, let's do that, because we have a lot of data right now.
Yeah, I'd love to put that to work.
You're just not aware of it.
Exactly.
So let's get together.
Thank you.
Senator Huntsville?
Yes, Russ Huxtable. So my question, this sounds really interesting and dynamic and futuristic. We are moving a lot to roundabouts, as we saw in the previous presentation. Are roundabouts monitored in the same fashion that these signals will be? Because there doesn't need to be the same technology in a roundabout.
Yes, it's anything, we can monitor traffic movement anyway. That's just, we need to have conversations and understand, working with everybody on what's the appropriate tools put in place.
All right. I don't see any other hands. Jeannie, as always, thank you for all very much. We're now going to right behind you. Everyone's right behind me. We're going to bring up Leah Sonda, who's going to do our implementation plan update. She's always saying, why do I always have to go last? That's just the way it is. It's the way it is.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. It's good to see so many familiar and new faces. For those of you who have not been around the working group process historically, this process did start off all the way back in 2017. And this body, maybe not all the same people at the table, but this group formulated 78 recommendations over the course of a year of meeting. And we had extensive public workshops during that too, and many of your neighbors and friends, I'm sure, came out for that. Subsequent to that, this body has moved into kind of a tracking phase whereby we meet like this 3 times a year now to discuss the status of each of those 78 recommendations. So it's been a really valuable process, I think, for both the community and members of the working group to see this change happen. As Andrew said earlier, this has really helped kind of keep track, because there are so many projects on the ground right now and happening of that process. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of those recommendations and then the status of some that have changed since we last met. So you'll see here on the screen, we kind of categorized them in 5 broad categories. The gray category, there are only 7, and that was recommendations that DELDOT could tackle under current projects or initiatives, and most of those are already done. The blue category is policies or procedures. So we heard a lot tonight about projects, specific physical improvements on the ground, but there's a lot of backdoor things too, some similar to what Jean talked about, policies and how Delaware does business, how they track things, and that is both at the county. I know Todd is here tonight from Sussex County, and at the state level of how we get things done to improve those processes and procedures. Green recommendations were making the most of existing roadway infrastructure. We have good bones down here, but obviously as volume increases, we need to improve upon those. So you heard a lot about widening, a lot about improving intersections, whether that's conversion to a roundabout or similar. Our red category of recommendations are about multimodal improvements. We have a couple champions for those on our working group. Really, you know, we've seen the success of facilities like the Georgetown to Lewis Trail and other pathways. And increasingly, as things get more congested, those paths can be a great way to get around that avoids the traffic and doesn't create more traffic. And we know not everyone's going to use them, but the fact that some folks can is going to help solve the traffic puzzle down here. And lastly, our yellow categories, those are our big picture recommendations. Those are our big projects that are kind of our long-term vision. So of all of the categories, that's where we have the most remaining work to do. So if you are curious to learn more about all 78, I promise I'm not going to go through all of that. I would encourage you to check out our website, and I'll have that link up at the end of the slide here tonight. So tonight, we're just going to highlight a couple that have kind of gone from in progress to complete, which is what we track here at the working group. So with that, we did not have any changes in category A, but every 6 of them are already done, checked off the list, and only 1 remains in progress. So that one in progress is actually the signage under the Nassau Bridge area, which will be addressed by the Miners Conway project. We heard a little bit about that earlier. So Brian and his team will be making sure wayfinding signage is available there to direct folks where to go, whether you're using the trail system or driving. So again, this was a critical issue when we met. Moving on to our policies and procedures, we have a couple kind of moving from long-term into in progress and in progress to complete. So one actually is in Gene's wheelhouse, which is parking management system. And you'll see it's study the feasibility. So we know often people are driving down from upstate and they want to go to, say, Cape Henlopen to the beach, but the parking lot may be full. And those folks don't know that when they're on the way. So we have been working with Gene and his group to see if there's a way we can better communicate the status of parking at the park and other critical destinations to folks before they kind of make their way down this far. Unfortunately, as those of you who love the park know, there's a lot of places you can put a car, including on the beach. So it's very hard to kind of count one in, one out at Cape Henlopen. We did a pilot down at Fenwick Island State Park, where they do have one parking area, and that was successful. But we are still kind of trying to troubleshoot with DENREC the problem of monitoring Cape Henlopen. So, Gene, I don't know if you have anything else to add on that one. If you see any potential solutions at Cape Henlopen, or if that one is we assessed it and it's probably not going to go anywhere from here.
It's a tough one, as you said, because they're either on the beach with their vehicles or in a variety of places, they're staying the week. Not like Fenwick. Fenwick's worked great, and so we have a center there in the summertime. You'll see it come back. That gives us that build, and you can see it on the app. What the parking availability is. So it just has too many ways traffic park to Cape Henlopen. We'll have to work with the park. I don't know how you can fix the problem.
Yeah, so, you know, in the light of our recommendation to study the feasibility, so at this point, we've kind of done that and it's looking not feasible. So this one, we're gonna talk some more, and maybe at April, we may kind of move this if there are no real viable solutions. But moving on, we have another policy recommendation that is now complete, which is study relaxed height limits as part of the comprehensive plan to increase density. So that basically means change the county's code to allow folks to build up higher. And Todd, I welcome you to jump in if you have anything to add, but Sussex County Ordinance 2889 was just passed this past October to allow an increase in that maximum height for multifamily development. And that's in conjunction with the county's rental program and in proximity to certain routes in the county. So we are considering that complete. The county spent quite a bit of time analyzing the implications of that and how it could support affordable housing, especially in the vicinity of the beach communities where we know we have a lot of service workers who need to be able to live slightly proximate to where they work. Todd, anything to add?
Perfect.
All right, thank you. And lastly, for category, actually one more, but category B, is drainage issues. So we know there are a number of drainage issues in the study area. DelDOT has been tackling those as they come up based on both community complaints and as all these projects get designed, we're out there in the field figuring out where there are drainage concerns and fixing them. So this has been underway. It's kind of been sitting though, so we decided to kind of tackle this more formally this coming year. We're going to be working with the maintenance division and Sussex Conservation District to kind of get a sense of what they were tracking back in 2017, 2018, and how many complaints they're seeing now. And Brian, we'll probably be reaching out to Brian and his group in PD South to also understand kind of inventory all the stormwater facilities that are coming in with all these capital projects. So this is one to kind of, we're going to be kicking off this year with a more direct look. B18 is about kind of aesthetically pleasing gateways into the beach community. So we do have the Savannah Road Master Plan effort underway. Mary Lowell, Delaware Greenways is a key part of that initiative, and they are kind of looking at that beautification component coming into Lewis, especially on Savannah Road. So that we are considering underway. But we are raising it tonight to let you all know they will be having a public workshop this spring. If you do subscribe to the following 5-point email list, which if you don't and you signed in, we can add you. So please sign in if you didn't on your way in, on your way out. That way you all can get a little bit more involved with that process if you're interested. Okay. Emergency vehicle preemption. We know with BD Hospital here in town and it being a little bit hard to get to from the main drag, getting emergency services to the hospital is really a priority. We also know that can wreak havoc with the synchronization of signals on Route 1. So we have some things in place at the TMC with Gene to work on that. It's a work in progress, but we are, with all the new technology coming in place, that is still remains a critical priority. Unfortunately, Glenn, with Sussex Emergency Services, had to leave earlier this evening because he actually had an emergency to respond to. So we are happy to have him on the working group representing the emergency response community. All right. I'm gonna move through that one. We talked about that last time. Moving into existing roadway infrastructure to complete here. These are both traffic issues. So continue to improve traffic signal phasing, timing, coordination, using real-time monitoring. That is ongoing. I hope you all heard from Gene tonight and hear from all of our engineers when we are out that this is really a core function of what the department does. We are always working to optimize how vehicles and all users move through the transportation network such that they are safe and getting to their destinations on time. So this, we kind of recently processed a lot of new findings from Route 1 and we'll be coming back to you soon with some more feedback on that. And lastly, need to identify turn lanes in the area. We've done an extensive survey of all the left turn lanes kind of throughout the 5-point study area for improvements. They've been inventoried, they've been lengthened where appropriate and or added to existing projects with Brian's team. So that we are considering complete because I think we've checked off practically every intersection at this point. It's great news. And similarly, improving lane markings and signage, that too, there's been extensive surveys with our maintenance division out and making upgrades and repairs to signage and lane markings as appropriate. As many of you may know, some of our roadway is under the control of Delaware River and Bay Authority, not DelDOT. So for some of those, we kind of have to extend those recommendations to DRBA to take care of, but we are working on it as we can. Moving into our multimodal improvements. One recommendation that I don't think we've talked about in quite some time is to put a median barrier in Route 1 so folks can't cross at unsafe crossing locations. This is a problem statewide where we have, unfortunately, high crash rates for people walking or biking, crossing at the road where they should not be. So I wanted to let you know that the traffic team is working on a project nomination to get grant funding to incorporate some of that in areas where we have higher crash risks. Bike parking, a number of folks advocate for bike parking. Wanted to let you know this is being handled already by the DelDOT project team. When they put the trail in and they have those kiosks with information about the trail. They include bike parking. Similarly, when development coordination is reviewing proposals from the private sector, if it's a commercial building or something where people may be traveling, bike parking is usually required. And also, Belleville is currently working on the Lewis Bike Plan, which will also include bike parking recommendations, especially, I'm sure those of you who bike know the racks are often full and maybe not secure enough to lock your new fancy electric bike to in a secure fashion. So we'll be making those improvements too. And lastly, category E are big picture things. So here is one we are ticking to complete, which is evaluating the potential benefits of a new roadway connecting Route 1 north of 5 Points to the Vineyards area. That evaluation has happened. And Vineyards has signed a new TID agreement, which is with DelDOT about future improvements and how that will play out. And the county and DelDOT will continue working with incoming developers around that. But there is no regulation forcing the developers to build that new road. So we've done what we could around that, and we're calling that complete. With that, do we have any questions from working group members? And then we'll be able to move into public comment for all of those use of this location. Yes, Todd.
Great job.
Thank you.
On slide 89, you said a barrier type treatment along the entire length of SR1 in Sussex. That means the entire length of.
It means we're looking at the entire length, but Sean, if you jump in, but we really want to target those improvements in areas where we have a crash problem. And obviously, the longer we go, the more expensive it is. We're all limited in what we can do in land, but Sean,
Yeah, so a couple of things on this one. So this recommendation was specifically for deterring pedestrians from crossing at basically unmarked locations, if you will. So there's kind of that component. So if you think of driving through Dewey, we worked with the town to be able to install a decorative kind of, it's not a fence, but it prevents folks from crossing, and it's been pretty successful. So in areas where we're truly talking about pedestrians, it's a variety of different things. So up on Route 13, we are installing our first median fencing. So in the Newcastle area, kind of near the airport, we have a ton of pedestrian crashes that happen up there. We've built sidewalks, we've added lighting, we've done all of the kind of pedestrian safety countermeasures that you can do, and folks are still being injured. And so now we're just going to prevent them from being able to cross, except for at a signal. So we're actually installing fence and or barrier with fence on top of it for several miles of Route 13 to try and, again, we have to do all we can to improve safety. And so if we've done all of the other things and we solve the problem, this is kind of our next steps. So this is the first time we're going to be doing that type of improvement related to pedestrian safety. So we're going to kind of see how that works, how well that works. But there would definitely be the opportunity for that along portions of Route 1. And then there's the vehicular barrier that we've been doing. So we started along Route 1, brought it all the way down to Dover Air Force Base area. When we're just starting the next phase of that will take it from there all the way down to the Milford Split. And our plan is to continue doing that the whole way down until we get into really almost to 5 Points, basically. We're going to do it in a few different ways. We're going to do it with the projects we're doing. So I talked about one in Minus Conway, one in Cave Neck, one in 16. Those projects will implement it as part of, within the project. And then we will come along and then continue closing off sections. Why we're doing this, we've had some tragic median crossover crashes. And so again, it's not required. If you go in the design manual, you don't have to do it on any of the roads that we've done it on so far. But we know that it works. And just when we had some snow about a month or so ago, we had 2 significant crashes into the median barrier that, had that barrier not been there, would have been horrific wrong-way crashes. And so we do have a plan to do it the whole way. So it's kind of a split, I would say, Todd. There's the pedestrian piece of it where we actually have pedestrians and doing a different treatment there. The cable barrier won't necessarily stop, a pedestrian from walking across. So in those areas where we either see pedestrian traffic and or anticipate it happening in the future, we'd be doing a little bit of a different treatment than the cable median barrier and or regular guardrail.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, Lloyd.
Can you talk about, sidewalks along Savannah Road? We'll say from Clay Road out to Route 1, so they align up with the sidewalks that are along Savannah Road.
Sure, wait, I probably have to get, and Pam, I don't know if you have any information on kind of the overall sidewalk plan. We obviously did, we constructed some sidewalks a couple of years ago. I think there's the overall plan to be able to have connected pedestrian facilities along that whole stretch, but I don't know in terms of timing, Lloyd. We can definitely get back to you.
Is there an update on the, any pedestrian bridges across Route 1?
So do you want to?
Yeah, so we have been continuing our work on that issue, Lloyd, in coordination with the low stress bikeway study. And we are kind of advancing that. We do hope to come back in April and have an update for you all on that. So we have done that traffic analysis, if you all recall. One of the recommendations was to provide overpass bridges on Route 1 in select locations to facilitate pedestrian and bike access. So last year, we had a presentation on what a bridge could look like and kind of the challenges and pros and cons of that. And we went back to do a traffic analysis to look at, you know, the bridge is a lot more expensive, as you can imagine, than an at-grade crossing, but at-grade has impacts on traffic flow. So we wanted to kind of come back to a very holistic look, weigh the pros and cons of each. So we will be bringing the results of that analysis back to you all in April, with hopefully your feedback then feeding into a potential recommendation for long-term improvements.
Mike Tyler, who's one of our working group members, is virtual but has raised his hand. Mike, come on and ask your question or comment.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, has anything been done about interconnectivity? You know, you talk about traffic on Route 1 and connections and so forth. But if I'm at Grottoes, I can't get to Home Depot unless I either go out back on the highway or go back and take that little road that comes out. If I'm at Lefty's, I have to go back out on the highway if I want to go to that little shopping center where the thrift store is. Why aren't we doing anything to encourage or enforce interconnectivity that would take a lot of cars off the road who are dangerously trying to get into traffic that's going too fast and get them back to another store? I mean, if you know, just take a look at a lot of these stores along here. If you had interconnection roadways, if you've ever been to Hilton Head, you can see what they've done to commercial. There's a whole network of interconnected roads. We have nothing, and I think it's unsafe.
Thanks for that comment, Mike. I can start us off and then I might ask Brian to step in, but I can say a lot of the projects we heard about from Shantae and Brian earlier are incorporating a side path as part of that development. So in addition to the roadway improvements, there will be a side path on one or both sides of the roads for many of these. So the example you gave with access to Home Depot, both the Plantation Road project will have a side path and also Linus Conaway that will enable folks to come from kind of north of Surf Bagel area and actually connect all the way down through to Plantation and further to point south. So all projects that are in project development are incorporating that. Obviously, it's taking time to get things on the road, but pretty much all the projects we've heard about today are making those upgrades. And we are also coming in on the back end of that with that SR1 low stress bikeway study I mentioned, Mike, to kind of look at the gaps that remain after we assume all those improvements are made. So, and some of that is also getting at what Lloyd said with getting across Route 1, right? So we have great side paths on either side, but we still have one as a barrier. So we acknowledge this is a problem. We agree with you that it is a safety issue for our folks walking and biking, and are working to improve it. It is, we're in it for the long haul and it's gonna take time, but I do see those improvements rolling out. And we'd be happy to sit down with you and give you a more detailed overview of those if you'd like.
Yeah, and this is Pam Turner from Build-Out Planning, and we also, as part of our development coordination manual, we do encourage all interconnections. It is sometimes a challenge because we have to, you know, have coordination from the next, even though we're speaking with the developer who's either redeveloping or making a new development, but we do request that we try to make as many interconnections as we can.
But it's not perfect. I mean, the struggle is, as Pam mentioned, if you have a new development coming in, that's great. They're typically willing to do a lot of things we want them to do, but they're connecting to somebody that's already there. And that would require potential changes to their development. And who pays for that cost? And can you force them to do it? All of those things. So yes, in a perfect world, if we, go back 40 years, we would have designed how everything developed along Route 1 a lot differently to encourage that type of interconnection. So I think we're doing, when we can, yes, we're trying to facilitate those types of things, but it's a harder thing to do on the back end than to do it on the front end. And so, but that's why, our projects have some service road proposed to take kind of those access points off of Route 1 and facilitate those local movements in that way. And I think we will continue to strive to have interconnectivity, but it's an uphill battle in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I understand that. I remember when Dave Hugg and I, we drove up and down Route 1, and it would have been a real miracle or a nice thing to have a frontage road so that people who are shopping would not be on Route 1, but they would be driving to where the heck they're going, to the beach or to Fenwick or wherever they're going. But I think you're right. It's not there now, but I think we ought to at least try to get it where we can.
Agreed.
Okay, yes, DJ.
Yeah, I think the pedestrian barrier in the median is a good thing, and I think also with the high school here, and the Kings Highway project, that should be added to that project as well. Having a 4-lane highway there from the high school. As far as the traffic data we're collecting with like loop detectors, cameras, and all that stuff, that's a great thing that we're not throwing that data away. So we're going to analyze some of that data, and we can do it basically real time now. But my question is are we just analyzing service volumes that are crossing the stop line and area of the intersection? Or are we collecting demand traffic count data that includes all the cars that are trying to get to that intersection? Because when you have to sit through 2 or 3 cycles, you're not getting the actual data you need if you're just collecting service volumes. Maybe a question for Gene.
As I said, we have detectors along open sections, so forth. And as the technology more advanced, you'll get better data. But we have thousands of things we're connected to for 20 years of building the system. And so we agree with what you're saying. And I look at that data all the time. So we are collecting data in between intersections.
Good. Okay, great. I'm going to move us along right now and go to public comment. See if we have anyone either online who has sent us a comment in either the chat or the Q&A. And of course, those people who are here in the audience. So what I'm going to ask you to do, I'm going to recognize the woman behind the banana tree, not the palm tree, the banana tree. But I'm going to ask you just to kind of come, if you wouldn't mind just walking up and kind of coming a little closer so we can capture you on the hour. So you'll have 60 seconds or thereabouts. And but if you could just state your name, please.
Okay, my name is Sue Rowland. I have a question for Gene, in that you're collecting data about accidents, but, and I know that fatalities is tough, but when you have several accidents happening at the same crossroads in a limited amount of time, do you respond to that or react to that? And I'm speaking specifically about the crossroads that goes to Nassau Road. It's not necessary. I mean, you can go further south on Route 1 and there's a traffic light. But instead, we have a crossroad that goes right across to Nassau. And I was unaware of it until I was in an accident. But then I watched on the neighborhood app and there were 3 accidents within 8 days there. And they're all high-speed accidents because you're riding on Route 1, not expecting someone to shoot over on that, claiming they didn't see you. So is there any response when there are frequent accidents at the same spot?
I'll let the boss say, but the department is regularly studying those sorts of things. What does help us is for all of you to contact us and just to make sure we're aware of the issue. But all accidents and those kinds of things, the department looks at.
Yeah, sure. So along the Route 1 corridor, we actually, several times we've taken the stretch from 5 Points all the way up to north of 16. I can't remember exactly how far, and actually looked at the crash data comparing all of those intersections to say which one has the highest crash rates based on traffic volumes, and, making proposed improvements. I think the struggle that we often have with closing crossovers, and I'll just tell you, I've worked for the department for 24 years, there are a lot of people that don't want that crossover closed. And so when we go out and make those proposals, we have a lot of folks oftentimes that'll come out and say, well, that's my best way to get to wherever. I don't want to go down to the signal, or it's, easier or whatever. So it's a balance of when we close crossovers and when we don't. As part of the Minus Conaway project, when we do that project, all of those crossovers will be closed because you'll have service roads on either side of Route 1. So in the next couple of years, there won't be any of those crossovers to be able to make the turn movement back, because we're pushing all the local traffic, the lower speed traffic, to the service roads and allowing them to have access under Nassau Road to facilitate the cross movement along Route 1.
When you say to let someone know, who specifically are we to address?
You can, on our website, we have a report of road condition. You can report all kinds of things, something that you think is unsafe, a pothole, a light out, any type of thing. I want sidewalk here. It gets filtered through our system and goes to the right appropriate person, and there should be a response back to tell you what we're doing with it. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bob, hold on. This is their time. I'm gonna go to the public. They've got a lot of hands back there. The gentleman back there, again, if you could come forward.
I'll speak pretty loud. I've got a track back.
Okay.
With the opening of the new.
Well, what's your name, sir?
Mike Duncan, the resident of Plantation.
Thank you.
With the opening of the Circle 5 Points sometime in May, we've mentioned it will be an additional 9 months of improvements projects on Plantation Road. Any idea what this 9 months will look like?
So we've done the sidewalk, utilities and drainage on the low side of the road, and we have to do the other side. It's just now that we're gonna have traffic full flowing through there, it's gonna take a lot longer to finish that. So we're piecemealing all that sidewalk on that side, the widening there, we've got some utilities to put under.
That's all shady, right?
Yeah, for the most part.
For the immediate future.
Yeah.
We're working either way.
Yep, and we're tying in,
George, repeat what he said so people
Sorry.
know.
yeah, they're wrong, facing the wrong way. We have to finish the improvements on the other side of the road, the west side of the road. We've done a lot on the east side now, so we'll be flipping traffic and finishing the other side.
And it's from Shady to Robinson.
Yeah, a little past Robinsonville, you can see kind of where we're ending everything, that's where we're going.
Right, thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna come to the gentleman in the orange, then the gentleman in the yellow, and then the gentleman back there. That's a matter of it. And again, you try to project your voice, your name, and if there's a place you live, and you want to let us know, great.
To the owl. Hi. So my name is Johannes Sayer, I live on Sweetbriar and Route 9. I have 2 questions. One is brief and informational, and the other might have a little bit longer answer. You want me to just pick one?
Try both.
Yeah.
It's good. Okay. So, Mr. Donaldson, Madam Deputy Secretary, the data collection that you're describing potentially has some grave privacy implications. Video data, including license plates that are machine readable, and telemetry data from cars that might identify the car, therefore register it, blah, blah. Is there a privacy policy that you can point me to that you will be following? As we know, data privacy is not a problem if government is held accountable, accountability enforced. You have a privacy policy for all this good stuff that you're blocking.
And I will say, we love all the questions. What I've always instructed everyone here is if we can provide an answer to it, we will, and if we can't, we'll get back to you. So I just want to make sure everyone knows.
Sure.
We are reviewing that now, just like you're saying. Yes, we will have some conversations from the top down on, I understand what you're saying, we're looking.
Great.
And the other question?
The other question is, so regularly in the season, the weekday, mid-morning, I see gridlock, and I lived in New York City at one point. I believe I have the definition of gridlock correct. So the crossing lane is not cleared by the time the light turns in your favor. From data networking, there's too much buffering and there's a clog somewhere downstream. So do you all, and forgive me, this is a layperson's question, do you all have models where you're modeling the arrival rate of new residents. You have some data, right? You have a rate of increase in population, you have locations where it's increasing, blah. You also have a difficulty because what's your lead time from the time the development is proposed to the time it's in the ground, and people move in. Can you solve that problem? Can you respond in time? Talk a little bit about what you can do.
How about the phone?
It's a really detailed question that I don't think Andrew's gonna let me give an answer to. It's complex. So, you know, we have developments that were approved 10 years ago that aren't done yet. And so we work with our planning folks, do a ton of modeling, which is also a factor in all of our projects, and that information is used to determine how long a turn lane is, whether any, you know, 1 lane or 2 lane in each direction. But it's not perfect. I think there is a lot of good data that we've been recently reviewing about the population growth and trying to factor that all in. But I think there's also a recognition that we can't build out of all of it. And so that's why we're doing bike trails. That's why we're promoting transit. We can't have everyone driving everywhere with all the development that is anticipated and think that we're going to not have gridlock. So I think we're tackling it from a variety of different aspects, but I don't think we have all the answers on it either as of right now.
Gentleman Young.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jerry Smith. I live in Sandy Bray, and you are making great improvements to the 5 points of Plantation Road. And I anticipate an increase in the traffic on Plantation Road due to the changes that you're making. And I was wondering, will you be doing any kind of noise analysis on the effect of the increase in traffic through the residential areas of Sandy Bray and Plantation developments?
The question is about doing a noise analysis along Plantation Road in specific areas.
So I can take that on. So, Plantation Road used to be one long project from 5 points all the way to Route 24. Probably 5-ish years ago, we decided to split it because we thought we could deliver the current project faster. Right, less right away. But we did one noise analysis that I reported. And the challenge with noise analyses are you build a model and you project the growth, project the traffic out to a design year, and then you calibrate the model, and then you use that future traffic to evaluate how far out the noise is going to be. So it's not, you want to know how many cars are coming, but you really want to study noise. Everyone thinks you want to study noise on the 4th of July weekend. Everybody's here, but you want to study it up in the middle of the night when the trucks driving by, because the tires are the biggest. So we do all that information with the traffic and project it out, take it into account. The problem with the noise analysis along a corridor like Plantation Road and Kings Highway is that there are so many access points along the road that any mitigation, like a wall that you see driving into Baltimore, in Pennsylvania, or an earth berm, minus Conway's gonna get an earth berm. It's one of the only projects that actually meets the criteria. It's not feasible because the sound acoustics will find its way into that access point. You gotta get to your neighborhood. So you can't put the wall through your entrance, things like that. My guess is it's a federal requirement to do these noise analyses. Once we split the projects, phase 1 is built now, phase 2 is kind of early in design. We'll have to redo that traffic analysis to bring it to more current numbers. 2018 is now 6 years ago. So we will be looking at it again. My guess is it comes to the same conclusion. It's not reasonable. That means certain criteria. It has to be under a certain cost threshold. You know, there are, if I remember, there are certain parts of Plantation Road that are meeting the noise threshold. So 8 or 9 decibels can be above, you know, a change of delta in existing versus proposed. And there are certain spots where we need criteria that end up not being reasonable because it's either too expensive.
But whichever make Plantation Road is car road and no trucks allowed on Plantation Road.
Would Plantation Road ever be just cars and no trucks?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a thought.
Okay. The gentleman over there, if you could kind of come up behind Lloyd over there and state your name and if there's a community that you're from or.
Yeah, my name is Ray Henlopen and I live in Lewis, in Somerset Green. And I appreciate the enormous challenges that you guys cover and And especially with the development and anyway, so I hope my question or comment doesn't come across as crass. But, so I live right off of Shady Road. And right before Christmas, I got a phone call from, the COA, board president that, that they were informed the next day that, DelDOT was gonna start working on putting in a temporary sidewalk for the, enlargement of the roadway, directly opposite of the new medical center. And, when we bought the properties, we were promised privacy screening from the developer. They put in some trees. We, as a community, did a community effort and put in more trees. And so we had less than 12 hours to find a landscaper to pull out all those trees. Otherwise, we were told they were just gonna get dug out and thrown in the trash. And so anyway, so I went immediately because I was away for the holiday. I went on the DelDOT website, tried to find.
Sir, hold on 1 second. Could people in the back, refrain from talking while we're doing this? It's hard to hear. Go ahead, sir.
So I tried to look up, the project for the Shady Road. And, just like you said on the portal, nothing. I tried frantically to call somebody from DelDOT to find out what's going on, couldn't get through. Anyway, so, my community, they spent a lot of money to get a landscaper out and move all these trees. And, anyway, so now they removed their temporary sidewalk. And, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this huge monstrosity, medical center that I may add, I did talk to the construction worker and he showed me the plans for this road widening. And it dated back to July 2022. And I'm thinking, okay, so DelDOT, negotiated with Lowe's because they got a new entryway. They obviously communicated with the medical center, new medical center, which is zoned for residential use, but that's another story. And they never contacted our community. So what I'd like to know is, what is DelDOT gonna do about it?
So I want to correct one thing that you said. It wasn't actually a DelDOT project. So the work on Shady Road is related to the medical center and then putting in turn lanes. So this did go through our process in terms of approval, but it's not our project. So I apologize that we didn't communicate to anyone, that the developer didn't communicate until kind of the last minute. But it is not part of the Plantation Road project. That's why you didn't find it on our website. It's not a DelDOT project. So a lot of development projects have developer work that's done. It appears to be DelDOT because you see orange barrels and you're like, it must be DelDOT, but it actually isn't in that case. So I apologize that happened. We don't have any way to provide any recourse to you. We can, make sure we do a lot of meetings with both the development community as a whole, as well as their engineering teams and their contractors. And so definitely want to highlight this and make sure that folks are given enough notice, because that's not fair that you had less than 24 hours to try and make something happen with the trees. I also, and I haven't had time to dig into it, is whether the trees were actually in right of way or not, because I don't know how they would have been able to go on that property if they weren't in right of way. So that's another thing that typically happens, is folks think that like, oh, it's green space and it's not the paved area, it must be ours. I'm guessing that the trees were in right of way. That's really the only way that the developer could have come on. Yeah, that's the only way they could come into your property without having to have previous dealings.
But I understand that, yes, that's why I couldn't find the Shady Road project. However, they did have DelDOT monitors there. However, they did do a road study by DelDOT. So DelDOT was involved.
And that's why I said, I'm sorry that we didn't, unfortunately, there are so many studies that happen. And again, we don't know when they're actually going to go out to construction. So that's part of typically the developer, if the onus is on them to, if they're gonna have impact to folks to do that notification. So again, I'm sorry, that's all I can say.
I understand that. But are you guys gonna do the right thing and tell this developer, hey, you know, pay to put their trees back up?
I unfortunately don't have the authority to force them to do that.
But that doesn't mean, sorry, that doesn't mean you can't reach out to them or reach out to the medical center. You said it sounds like it may have been related to them to initiate that conversation. But as you just heard from Shantae, it's not something DelDOT really has the ability to do. But I need to move forward. I don't mean to be the bad guy here. There's a lot of other hands and I need to.
I understand,
Okay.
I understand, but I'll just say, you know, you guys do have a lot of weight. So it would be really wonderful to take in consideration all people involved.
All right, I'm gonna go left to right. Kim,
Hi.
former working group member.
Yeah. So just come to fun now. I'm Kim Hoey Stevenson, and I know that you guys take a hard time from all of us all the time. I just wanted to thank you for the stop signs at Dairy Farm Road and Cedar Road and Beaver Dam, and all those, Beaver Dam. I went through that intersection recently and my blood pressure didn't go up. I didn't have to close my eyes and hope I didn't die. It was wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right, I'm gonna go to the red vest and then to the gentleman in the black sweater. Yes.
My name is Mike Curto. I reside in the Coastal Club community on Beaver Dam Road, and I was just, I know there's a proposal adjacent to our community to build another large housing development. And I just was interested in understanding what the cycling path will be, or recommended cycling path to get from Beaver Dam Road through 5 Points to Savannah Road and vice versa.
Do we have any information on that? Or
When would that
back to the
available?
gentleman?
So, we start by saying each capital project that's coming through will have bicycle and pedestrian connectivity, you know, either through sidewalks or shared use path combo, you know, a couple projects are getting shared use path on both sides of the road. Until that next phase, you know, the Beaver Dam widening project comes through, I don't know what the scope of that concept is going to look like. We haven't developed that yet. But once these current projects, like Plantation Phase 1, roundabout, minus Conaway, those two really specifically, in Old Orchard Road, you actually will be able to get to Savannah from where you are without getting on Route 1. So you'll be able to go under Route 1 using Nassau, the new road, like connecting to the roundabouts, and go down New Road to the Riverside Trail and get over. So it'll be a long ride, but it will be safe and, you know, you'll be able to.
Because right now, we get to the Lewis path, Lewis direction. Coming out of our community, we need to go, normally we go down to Dairy Farm.
Yep.
We take Dairy Farm, which ultimately, traffic light Route 9 has a cycling shoulder on it, but prior to that, all the way down.
Yeah, big bad Route 1 is your problem. I mean, minus Conway is gonna fix that for you, you know, when that comes through, but, the other two projects on either end of it are gonna.
In order, I know it's hard because we think we're here, but there's a hybrid meeting. We need to make sure people can hear online. They're having some problems. So, sir, I'm going to come to you, but again, try to keep talking loud. And if you have some kind of follow-up.
Sure. Rich Barrasso. I live in the Red Fox Run community. It's just north of the Cave Neck Route 1 intersection, which has historically been the second most accident-prone intersection on Route 1. Last summer, Rux Hospital reached out to Shantae. Shantae and Russ met with the Painters Mill community as well as other communities in the area. Talked about the problems we had there, what possible solutions. We knew we had to wait 3 years for a separated grade to go in, but was there anything that could be done? We talked about a number of solutions. They said they were going to go work on it, and they did. 4 weeks ago, I got an email from Peter Hay. He said, Rich, the signs are going in. And within 3 days, the sign on the southbound lane with a rotating amber light. And the same on the northbound lane. And there's not a day that I go by there since then. I don't think that those signs are saving lives at KVEC. So thank you both for your efforts, and thank Peter and the rest of the team.
Are there any, yes, ma'am, stand up and again, talk as loud as you can.
Jean Marie Dolan. I'm a resident of Plantations, the Plantations with Silos. And I am also president of the Condo and Owners Association. Our community has some very grave concerns about the preliminary plans. And I want to thank Brian for meeting with us and for sharing and agreeing to try to work with us. We think some of the studies that have been done are old. A gentleman spoke about that earlier today. We have a study that was done over 2 days in 2022 that said that we don't warrant a traffic light. Well, that was before 2 communities, BB Healthcare opened their new center, and there's now a Welch, a new community. So there's a lot more traffic, and we are now citing, we're going to have 2 left-hand turn lanes, a 10-foot wide shared use path, easy for me to say, bicycle lanes, and our trees are going to be taken down. This plan is going to move the shared use path up where our fence is. And if you know Plantation, all the trees that line that white fence are probably at risk. And it's just a big concern for us. So Brian is going to continue to work with us, and I just wanted to let everybody know. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Oh,
Hi, my name is Carol Dunworth. I live in Nurem Bay. And I am suggesting another place that desperately needs a stop sign. And that is at the intersection of Kendall and Beaver Dam between 3 o'clock in the afternoon and 7 o'clock. To get across Beaver Dam and make a turn is a story. I sat the other day behind 5 cars for 10 minutes. And unfortunately, get on left to make that left turn, which is the worst. The right is not so bad, but the left is awful. So if stop signs were there, it would be wonderful. Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else here who hasn't had a chance, who would like to make a comment before we go to those people online? Okay, I don't see any hands. Leah, I think you've been tracking comments online.
I've been working on it. Let's see, we had a comment from Karen Z, asking if we're still considering a bridge over Route 1. We did address that live, which is yes, that analysis is underway. And if you tune back in with us in April, we'll be taking care of that. Also asking whether a crossover, I assume bridge could be done at Glade Road and Route 1. I assume by that means Holland Glade Road. We are not evaluating that location for a bridge. However, a full 4-way stop with crosswalks at Glade is going to be done there. And signal, yes, with a full signalized intersection. So right now it's kind of a push button hawk symbol that will be turning into a full signal. We had a comment from EV for Jean asking if your data is satellite or wireless communication driven, just with a concern out of kind of the resiliency of the system and the risk security risks, and whether there's any redundancy built in to make sure that if there's a cyber attack or a data outage or something, we still have functionality there. And I'll make sure that the entirety of your comment, this really gets passed on to Jean, but I'm not going to read the whole thing.
Real quickly, we're doing all the airways communications, but over the years, we've built over 500 miles of fiber that connects north to south, east to west. So, and we have high-speed wireless technology we're installing now. So, yes, we made the system redundant. We will continue to.
Thank you, Jean. And I think that covers us. We do have a hand up in the chat, but unfortunately, Mr. Marks, if you could type your comment
Actually, hold on.
No, we're good. Mr. Marks, we're gonna unmute you, and you should be able to then unmute yourself and come on and make your comment or ask your question.
Thank you. Thank you. So Bruce Marks, and I can't get my video working, so I apologize. But I live in Red Mill Pond South, and I have two questions. One, I'll say more immediate than the other. One is, have you evaluated and looked at a light coming out of Red Mill Pond South? One, and I think two is, with these other developments coming, I know they're many years down the road, with them coming, what gets looked at from the point of, if we go to a 4-lane road and not Route 9, which I presume we're going to, what's put up as a barrier for sound with Red Mill Pond South? Because our houses will be right against 4 lanes of road at that point, which isn't like they were all when we purchased them.
So this is Shantae Hastings. I'll have to get back to you on the evaluation of a signal at your development entrance. I don't have that information on me. In terms of some type of noise mitigation, as Brian mentioned, when we do our projects, we do have to do a noise analysis. So we capture existing noise, we look at the projected traffic, and then do projections of what the noise will be with that new, with those new volumes, 30-ish years out from now. And then we evaluate what the change in noise is. And if it meets a certain threshold, then we will look to see whether mitigation is feasible and reasonable. So both from the standpoint of, as Brian mentioned, if you have a road that has a ton of access points, you can't build a barrier that will actually address the noise issues. So look at it kind of from that standpoint, and then also from a cost standpoint, and all of that gets summarized into a report. So, and that all of that information becomes available once the report is complete.
Okay, and if you would like to type, Mr. Mark, if you want to type your email into the comment, we can get back to you on the first part of your question.
Thank you.
And one more comment, regarding parking at Henlopen State Park, is there any possibility of using a drone to surveil parking and kind of machine learning to communicate that to the TNC and back to the drivers?
We can look at that, but flying a drone, we fly drones a lot. We have a major program. It's something we could look at. We do use drones for doing that kind of survey already. So, if we make a note, then we can.
Great.
One more comment here in person. State your name, please.
Tom Panetta from Lewisburg Public Works. One clarification about the new road bridge project. I think what I heard was the bridge construction is set for 2026. When is the utility work?
2025.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
So we're gonna wrap up. Is there any other comments or questions from anyone in the working group? Mike Tyler, I did see that you had your hand up. I don't know if it's been responded to or not, but you can come on and ask your question or your comment. I don't see you come on though. I'm gonna move us forward. Okay, Bob quickly and then DJ.
Responding to the Deputy Secretary's astute observations on coming from 16 down and not having any crossovers. There was a lot of discussion about how taking that light out there would eliminate all of the gaps that allow people to get on and cross. But the plan that DelDOT now has seems much safer, and that is do not allow any crossings from north to south. And in fact, I think your plan is to eliminate them all. So the fact that there's no light at 16, when this is all done in 4 or 5 years, will be irrelevant because nobody's going to be allowed to cross. You'll have to go make a right turn and make a U-turn. Do I have that correct, Shantae?
So that was from the stretch when I was talking closer to the Minus Conway project.
Well, that would be true down that. I mean,
Yes,
the
so
point
down
is,
that part.
I'm assuming it'll be all, so if it's that way all the way up to 16, then not having that light there, and I know DJ and I talked about that a lot. And, you know, but it doesn't seem to me in the long run. In the short run, it will still be a problem. Is it true that there really won't be any crossovers from 16 south when everything is done? Well, including the
Bob, give her a chance to respond.
Okay, so there's a few different projects. So you've got the one in Minus Conway project, which will take care of a stretch. You've got the one in Cave Neck Road project that'll take care of a stretch. Then you've got kind of north of there to, let's just say Hudson Road. We don't have a full plan to close all of those crossovers today. Now, we do have the corridor capacity preservation program plan, which is out in draft form. And that ultimate plan would be no at-grade kind of crossing.
Right.
And so long-term, but it's going to take us a while to get to that point. And so we are looking to channelize some of those crossovers so that you can't do all of the movements, you can do some of the movements, taking out some of the conflict points. But I can't tell you in 5 years from now that we're going to close all of those crossovers. We could, but we have to do some public action.
DJ, we've got 1 minute. If I bring us in at 8, I get a
That's fine.
warning from Dairy Queen. So this is important.
It just expanded on Bob, and if I missed it earlier, the timeline from when the signal comes out to when the GSIs are open at Minus Conway and Cave.
Yeah, so 1 and 16 is done in 25. And then I think Cave Neck would be our longest one to complete, and that's 28. 28 or.
So you have a basically a 3 to 4 year period. Thank you.
All right. Rita's gonna talk one slide about website information, and I'm gonna close this out.
There are 2 websites for 5 points now. It's a little confusing, but not too confusing. One you're all very used to is 5points.del.gov. That is going to be used for everything from 2017 to 2023. So all of our archival information. We also have a really cool new tool called Public Input. This is kind of a more dynamic live page. Nabila and I have the ability to jump in and update it. So we will be using that site to house all of our working group materials because we can do it on the fly and it's much easier. So we will be sending, this came out and following 5 points newsletter. And when we communicate with you with the links to the recording for today and with your meeting packets, this will also be open to all of you in the public. So if you want to take a look at all these slides and all these hyperlinked things throughout, it will be on this website. So if you did not sign in and you're a member of the public and you want to be on these emails, please leave us your email address and sign-in sheet in the back. And otherwise, our next meeting will be probably here in April, but please look for the notice. Hopefully the school will continue to be kind to us. They have great hosts. 6 p.m. on April 22nd. And we look forward to seeing some of you then. Thank you all.
Everyone, thank you. This is all about communication. We appreciate everything you guys do to make us aware of things, allow us to share information with you. The process is working and we thank you for that. We will see everyone in April. Get home safe.